There's a question in the Bible that most people read and then move past too quickly. Galatians 1:10 says, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" And that sounds simple. But if you sit with it for even a moment, it becomes uncomfortable because most people don't realize this. You can believe in God, pray to God, talk about God, and still be living your entire life for people. Not intentionally, not consciously, but quietly. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't feel wrong at first. It feels like being kind, being respectful, being accepted. But over time, it starts costing you something deeper. Your identity, your peace, your direction. Today I'm going to show you the signs that you're living to please people, not God. And if you recognize yourself in these, this isn't condemnation. It's awareness, because awareness is where freedom begins. Let's start with the first sign. Number 1, you feel anxious when people are displeased with you. Not just uncomfortable, anxious, restless. You replay conversations in your head. You overthink your words. You wonder, did I say something wrong? Here's the deeper truth most people miss. That anxiety isn't about them. It's about who you've given authority over your peace. Because when people's opinions control your emotions, they've taken a place in your life that only God should have. The Bible says in Proverbs 29:25, "The fear of man will prove to be a snare, a trap, not obvious, not immediate, but slow." You start adjusting yourself just to stay approved. And without realizing it, you stop being led by truth and start being led by reactions. Number 2, you struggle to say no, even when you know you should. You feel it inside, that quiet conviction. This isn't right. This isn't aligned. This isn't what I should be doing. But you say yes anyway. Why? Because you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to seem difficult. You don't want to lose their approval. But here's what most people never realize. Every time you say yes to please people, when God is telling you no, you're training yourself to ignore your own discernment. And over time, that voice gets quieter. Not because God stopped speaking, but because you stopped listening. Jesus himself said in Matthew 5:37, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." Clarity, not confusion. But people-pleasing blurs that clarity until you're no longer sure what you truly believe. Number 3, your identity shifts depending on who you're around. This one is subtle. With one group, you act one way. With another, you adjust again. You change your tone, your opinions, even your values slightly, just enough to fit in, just enough to be accepted. And at first, it feels like adaptability. But here's the deeper truth. If you constantly change who you are to be accepted, you slowly lose who you are entirely. Romans 12:2 warns, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." But people-pleasing is exactly that. Conforming, not because you believe it, but because you want to belong. And the danger is this. You can spend years becoming someone everyone else accepts, while becoming someone you don't even recognize. Number 4, you avoid truth if it might create conflict. You know what's right. You see it clearly, but you stay silent because speaking up might create tension. It might upset someone. It might change how they see you. So you choose comfort over truth. But here's what most people miss. Silence, when truth is needed, is still a decision. And over time, it shapes your character. Galatians 1:10 continues with something powerful. "If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Notice that. Not "it would be harder," not "it would be complicated." It says you cannot serve both, because one will always require you to compromise the other. Truth or approval, conviction or comfort. And every time you choose silence to stay accepted, you move further away from who you're called to be. Number 5, your self-worth depends on how others respond to you. This is where it gets deeper. If they praise you, you feel confident. If they ignore you, you feel invisible. If they criticize you, you feel shaken. Your sense of worth rises and falls based on people's reactions. But here's the truth most people never confront. If others can define your worth, they can control your life. Because you will always chase what validates you and avoid what threatens it. But your identity was never meant to be built on reactions. It was already established. Ephesians 2:10 says, "You are God's workmanship," not people's opinion, not people's approval, God's. And until you fully anchor your identity there, you will keep searching for it everywhere else. And it will never feel stable. Now here's where everything shifts. Because most people think people-pleasing is about behavior. But it's not. It's about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of being misunderstood. But the truth is, you cannot live fully aligned with God and be fully accepted by everyone. At some point, those paths separate, and that's where most people hesitate. Because choosing God often means losing approval. But here's what changes everything. When you stop living for people, you don't lose everything. You lose pressure, you lose confusion, you lose the constant need to perform. And in its place, you gain something most people never experience: peace, clarity, direction, because you're no longer reacting. You're being led. And that's the life Galatians 1:10 is pointing to. Not a life of isolation, not a life of arrogance, but a life of alignment, where your decisions are not filtered through what will people think, but through what is true. And here's the final truth you need to hear. People-pleasing doesn't just affect your actions. It shapes your entire life. The relationships you stay in, the opportunities you take, the boundaries you ignore, the calling you delay, all because you're trying to maintain approval. But approval was never meant to be your compass. God was. So here's the question, not for someone else. For you, right now. Are you living for people, or are you living for God? And don't answer quickly, because your life already shows the answer. If this opened your eyes, type "aware" in the comments. Not for me, but as a moment of honesty for yourself. And if you're ready to stop living for approval and start living with clarity, stay connected, because this is where real transformation begins.